Hey everyone, welcome to the Rugger. The draw for the World Cup has been done. It happened Wednesday this week, 9 a.m. Irish time from Australia, live from Sydney. I think it was Channel 9. And I have to admit, even just the ceremony itself was great. The pools have been, all sorted. There's been a bit of controversy. There's been happy fans, there's been annoyed fans, but all in all, just even as a ceremony, I have to give the Australians credit. They really did it the right way. Didn't drag it out too much. It was about a half an hour before things really got rolling. Maybe 20 minutes. They did their, bit of background from the different people that were taking the balls out of the buckets and all these kind of Australian rugby legends, which makes sense. But even when I was watching, I was just like, oh, I hope this isn't a dragged out affair like the Lions was during the summer. That was, or sorry, maybe it was just right before the summer where they named the squad for the Lions on TV, and the whole thing was a full hour, and it was like, oh my god, please hurry up, please just pick the players. How long does it take to pick 40 players out of a hat and name them? So I think this was a lot more bearable. So yeah, they just had a ring of people, took the balls out of a bucket. There was no lotto hovering machine that made the balls go up in the air or anything like that, but it's definitely fair. It's just totally random. Person takes out the ball, reads the name, puts it into the pool according to the band as they went. So I'm going to go through each different pool, and of course I'll elaborate a lot on Ireland, but just to make sure you know that this is the biggest ever in terms of participants that's going to be happening in 2027. It's 24 countries that are going to be playing. So that means this time it's going to be a little bit like the FIFA World Cup, where there'll be a round of 16. Makes it a little bit spicier. So each pool will have four teams in it, and to advance, you just have to be in the top two. And even if you're not in the top two, you still have a good chance as long as you're the top four of the other, yeah, the top four of the other number threes across each pool. You still get in with a chance at the round of 16. So yeah, I'll get my little point and stick here. For Pool A, we've got the host, Australia, Chile, Hong Kong, and New Zealand. Now that's interesting because Australia will be, obviously as a host nation, they'll be playing the first game. So you would imagine the first game would be Australia and New Zealand. Anything could happen from now till then. People think, God, that's going to be New Zealand all the way. But bear in mind, Australia did beat South Africa earlier on in the Rugby Championship just a few months ago. So a lot can happen in 18 months. Australia could really, get their act together and give New Zealand a real big fight, especially at home when you have home advantage, the home crowd. So that could be a really spicy one to start off with. But that's Pool A. And then we have Pool B. We've got Georgia, Italy, Romania, and South Africa. You feel like South Africa own that pool. They're going to be the top dog in that pool. Italy probably in second. And then for Pool C, you have Argentina, Canada, Fiji, and Spain. For there, you would say Argentina owned that pretty confidently, but Fiji, lately they've been doing pretty good at World Cups, so I wouldn't put past Fiji to make an upset against Argentina. Then you've got our pool for Ireland, and then Pool E. You've got France, Japan, Samoa, and USA. Now, there's no pool of death this time, definitely. You'll remember last time in 2023, the group that Ireland was in was considered the group of death because you had Ireland, South Africa, and Scotland in the same pool. So that was kind of dynamite. Scotland got hard done by. They didn't make it to their quarterfinals, but when you're in a pool like that, very hard to get out of it alive if you're kind of middling. So that would be the closest thing I would say, just because Samoa, even though they struggled to get into this World Cup, I keep thinking back to the World Cup warm-up games back in 2023 where they nearly beat Ireland in a warm-up game in August before the tournament. And I think Samoa has a very rich history of rugby culture, and I think with a bit of time they could get back onto a bit more form. So that's just a group to look out for. That could be a really spicy group. Japan have been turning up at World Cups pretty well over the last decade or so. Seem to be really good at the upset. Don't forget that they did that upset back in 2019 against Ireland, and then the World Cup before then against South Africa. So with Eddie Jones at the helm, I think anything can happen with Japan. It's pretty exciting from their perspective. And then, of course, France at the moment would definitely be ruling that pool. And then for the sixth and last one, Pool F, you've got England, Wales, Tonga, and Zimbabwe. So I couldn't fit the country's name on the blackboard there. This is a really messy blackboard today, so apologies. I was just trying to fit every country on there. You would think England would be top dog there. Yeah, there's not really much between it just because Wales aren't doing the best right now. But yeah, you would say England are definitely owning that pool. So those are the 6 pools. So just to analyze Ireland's pool, we've got Scotland, Uruguay, and Portugal in there. So I think we've done quite well. It's so much better than the last World Cup. You might remember the draw was done preemptively. So it was kind of, I don't know, it was a strange World Cup where in the quarterfinals you felt like the quality of those games and the standard of the teams, they could have easily have been semi-finals. I'm talking about Ireland and New Zealand and France and South Africa. And I think in both cases, either one of them could have been a final because the caliber was so high. So it was a weird World Cup, but the draw was done much too preemptively. And as a result, I think it did suffer. You had teams like Argentina in the semi-final that just weren't on par with some of the teams that were getting knocked out in the quarters. So it was a confusing World Cup. So they've really made sure that it hasn't happened this time. Now, the only controversy that I can see so far, just from judging comments online, is the fact that New Zealand and South Africa, going on their rankings and experience and performances over the years, you would think from their side of the draw that they would meet in the quarterfinal. So that's the only controversy I can see so far with this pool, that they would have to, one would have to knock out the other in the quarterfinal. So yeah, but I think really, Ireland's group is nice. Scotland, there's a regular rivalry with Ireland and Scotland. We've had their number for the last number of years, quite a while. I'm trying to think of the last time Scotland beat Ireland. I think could have been 2018. So especially, in the Six Nations, they just always seem to be very emotionally charged, scrappy dogfight games, whether it's in Murrayfield or the Aviva. So we have 2 years now, two more Six Nations, so to speak, to play Scotland and, try and suss each other out until then, because really it's about winning that group to get the best rise into the knockouts and beyond. So that's a crucial game between Ireland and Scotland in that pool. And then you got Uruguay. I got to be honest, I really don't know much about Uruguayan rugby at all, but I'd love to know more. So I will try and see if I can do a bit of research just from their past and put a video together just about their history as a rugby nation and some of their results. But I did see through Scotland's Instagram account that last year Scotland had played Uruguay and they had beaten them, but only by about 12 points. So it just goes to show they can put it up to, a top-class outfit like Scotland and still be close enough. So, yeah, be interested to research a bit more about them. Now, we know about Portugal. They were outstanding in the last World Cup for such a small rugby country in terms of, people like, with experience, with wins, recorded wins. It is, considered to be more of a amateur nation for rugby, but they did really well in the 2023, won a lot of new fans. And, these are people that are not paid like professionally like the home nations. These are people that are like doctors or cab drivers, just regular people that play rugby in their spare time. So they really made their mark in the last World Cup. So I'm delighted we're in the same group as them. Really, really good, fast-flowing, passionate rugby. Now, a lot of those players from the 2023 Portugal squad have left in the interim. So you could see that when Ireland went to tour Portugal during the summer, they recorded they broke three simultaneous records. It was biggest margin in a game, most tries scored, and most conversions scored. It was like 107-7 or something ridiculous cricket score like that. So it was a bit of a wipeout. It was disappointing because we wanted a really good contest, and that was Ireland's B team for the most part during the summer because of the Lions tour. So it was a real, just total washout. So hopefully Portugal can get a bit better over the next 18 months and give us some good games. So yeah, if you're thinking about routes and like, okay, if we were to play this tomorrow or based on the current rankings, how would Ireland do? I think they would do well enough to break the hoodoo of the quarterfinal. So if you would say, let's just say hypothetically speaking, if Ireland did top their group in the pool stage, what would happen then, according to how the bands are done, how the groups are done, they would go into the round of 16, and that's where they play the third best of Group B, E, and F. So I kind of took an educated guess to say that would be Samoa. Just thinking hypothetically, but they are a good country for the rugby. So that would be the round of 16. You would think Ireland would have that based on current form. And then if they got past the round of 16 and they went to the quarters, they would more likely be playing Argentina. Now, this is interesting because Argentina and Ireland, they have this weird history where outside the World Cup, Ireland seems to do quite well against them. But at 3 different World Cups, Argentina have knocked Ireland out. So they are someone to be feared. And even just on their own, they perform at World Cups. It hasn't been just Ireland. There have been famous games in the past, especially against France, where nobody was expecting them to win at these big clutch games, and they did. And they've been to a couple of semi-finals, so they're really not to be underestimated. I think they play great rugby. I think they're one of my favorite teams in the Southern Hemisphere. They're just really unpredictable, really passionate team, just a lot of fun to watch. So there's that weird history there. So I would not be saying, oh, we have this quarterfinal in the bag. I think we have to really, never take a quarterfinal for granted until we actually win one. I think the last World Cup, people were very confident, even though the pool, the way that the teams were organized, it was still a disaster. But everyone thought at the time Ireland were better than the All Blacks because we were going on this famous unbeaten run for about a year and a half. And it just shows that in the World Cup, anything can happen. Never write off the All Blacks. So I think moving forward, we need to really check ourselves and our expectations and just take it one game at a time, especially now that there's a round of 16 involved. But just to give you a bit of the narrative about Argentina, so back in 1999, there was the quarterfinal playoffs, which is kind of similar to the concept of the round of 16. So that World Cup, Argentina knocked Ireland out. And then in 2007, Ireland just did not do well at all in the group stage and were actually knocked out in the group stage by Argentina. And then I'll never forget the 2015 one. It was the biggest margin Argentina have ever beaten Ireland in history so far. That was 43-20 to Ireland in that quarterfinal of the 2015 Rugby World Cup. That was a disaster. That was really hard watching because the game before, Ireland had played France, and it was a great game, but they lost all these key players like Johnny Sexton, Paul O'Connell, Peter O'Mahony. So it was just really unfortunate just to lose all those players. It was a bit of a kind of a death stroke, really. So there's this very bizarre history. After that, we have won every game against Argentina. Argentina have never won a game in Ireland. We have this great record against Argentina ever since that game. So you're thinking, is it good to lose to Argentina now in the next year or so, just to kind of get it out of the way and experiment with new players, try new things, or should we just keep trying to beat Argentina to get in their heads? So I think it's a spicy fixture. I mean, I think in terms of quarterfinals, I'm pretty happy with that, even though they're still going to have to be very on their guard. So yeah, that's the Argentina route. Now, still going on this kind of thread, if Ireland would win that quarterfinal, they would probably, and if you can check this from yourself, everybody's got different opinions, but from an educated guess, it would be England for the semi-final if all goes well. So an Ireland-England semi-final, I just love the sound of that fixture. That's a great game to be watching at the World Cup for a semi-final. I just think that would be perfect. Who better to play the first time we get past the hoodoo next than England? So that would be the fixture for that case. If Ireland did beat England, then you would be probably looking at, based on recent events, South Africa in the final. South Africa are going for a three-peat. It's never been done before in history. Rassie Erasmus wants to make his mark for the Springboks, and they are on the mountain. They're on their peak, or have they even peaked yet? How much of a ceiling is left for South Africa? How much higher can they go? I think the answer is quite a lot, because they've got 18 months and they have a huge depth of players. They've just been wiping the floor with everybody lately. So you would think it would be South Africa again for this final. So that's what happens if Ireland come to the top of their group in the 2027 World Cup. Now, I've also thought about what happens if they come second. Let's just say Scotland pulled a really good game out of the bag and they beat Ireland. It's a close game, but they still beat Ireland. And Ireland is second in the group. In that case, it would probably be then for the round of 16, France, which would be an absolute nightmare. I mean, talk about your tough knockout game straight off the bat, France. So that would be definitely the harder road to travel. If Ireland did beat France, you'd be looking at a Wales or Fiji quarterfinal. I think that's still tough to call. I can't really make a decision on that one. But I would say it would be, yeah, pretty split down the middle at the moment, just given current form. So let's say, now that's a soft quarterfinal compared to Argentina. So let's just say it's Fiji and they beat Fiji. Then you'd be looking at a semi-final against South Africa, which is very daunting, obviously, just as daunting as a final with them. So it's kind of like England and South Africa reverse roles. So if Ireland did beat South Africa in the semi-final, then you'd be looking at probably England for the final. So both scenarios at the end game are great. You know, they'd both be very dramatic, very spicy. So, you know, I'm still thinking that quarterfinal against Argentina supposedly is going to be really tough. But I just, as a loose guess, think that's how it's going to end up at the moment. I'll be going back to these next year, probably after the inaugural Nations series, to see where everybody is and how the rankings are, how the performances have been in the course of 6 or 8 months, and then look back and see have predictions changed that much, that drastically. But it's really exciting. I'm delighted it's finally out, this list of pools, and pretty happy with the pool that we've gotten. The locations of these games, they're going to be released in early February. So as the Six Nations is getting into gear, that's when we're going to know about venues and where games are going to be played. That's pretty important too, especially if you're looking to go over to Australia. I think it's going to be a great World Cup for Irish fans because there are thousands and thousands of, probably tens of thousands at this stage, of Irish people, Irish expats in Australia, all over, from Perth all the way across to Sydney. So if you're Irish, you probably will have a friend or two that you can, sleep on their couch or something and get a ticket and hop on the plane and go over for a week or two. It'd be great to just go over for a game and just revel with the local Irish community. Looks like it's going to be, just a lot of fun in terms of atmosphere. There's so many Irish bars in so many of those Australian cities: Melbourne, Sydney, Canberra, Perth, Adelaide. So yeah, something to think about if you'd like to go to the Rugby World Cup over there. You would not be disappointed. They're going to be, I'd say they're going to be very good hosts. So that is the predictions. Let me know what you think about how the pools have come about. Who has gotten hard done by, who's gotten a really nice route. It seems like as well England have got a nice route this time again. In 2023, they seem to have gotten probably the best route out of anybody. So yeah, I think they've got another nice kind of trail ahead of them for this World Cup. So that is the pools, how they're looking. Just a quick tap on the URC results from last week. It's kind of strange because in the space of 2 weeks, we have 3 different tournaments that are involved. We finish up in the Autumn Internationals, then we have a round of the URC, and then boom, we're into the Challenge Cup and the Champions Cup, all within 2 weeks. It just seems like you're kind of bopping like a bumper car from one tournament to the next. I just don't know why they do that. Why don't they just go straight into the Champions Cup and then do the URC after? Just think it's a bit uneven, but on the weekend last week, it was Leinster against the Dragons over in Wales. That was 24-10 to Leinster. Not a convincing win for Leinster. They're missing a lot of their internationals, and RG Snyman just kind of came about in the end of the game and scored the decisive try. But it still seems to be an uneven start to their season. Seems to be continuing a bit. I do think they will get better, but at the moment it's just not as convincing as years before. But again, they've started strong in so many seasons before and then seem to kind of lose the very last hurdle. So what's the big deal with doing it the other way around? Starting a bit slow, getting better as you go. I don't think there's any problem with that. Then there was Ulster against Benetton. Very comprehensive win, 47 points to 13. So well done to Ulster. And then we had Munster versus the Stormers in Thomond Park. wanted to go to this one, but just couldn't because of circumstances. But a bit of a letdown. 27-21. Stormer victory. It was a really good first half for Munster. It actually was looking like they were flying again, like they had barely missed a beat in the interim or during the internationals. But the second half, it just seemed that same theme of the scrum coming back to haunt Irish players, where Stormers just unleashed their bench and just totally took over the game. It was still a great game to watch. It got very close, and there was a cancelled out try towards the end that was unfortunate. But it's not the end of the world. It's not even like, I still don't even feel like the honeymoon period is over with Clayton McMillan. I mean, it's his first loss, big deal. It's against the best team at the moment in the whole URC. So, it's not the end of the world. Stormers are the team to beat, though. They just seem to be really flying at the moment. So that happened in Thomond Park. And then you had Connacht against the Sharks, 44 points to 17. Delighted for Connacht. Really seemed like the dam broke, because there were a few games in the autumn that you thought, geez, Connacht really kind of let that one slip. And people are really excited with Stuart Lancaster being in the mix now that he's coaching them. But that was really a convincing win. So congrats to Connacht. Great to see that happening. And they are slowly but steadily, getting into the top 8 of the group. And that's what you want. You want all 4 provinces chugging away in the top 8. And they still have another game to play because of the storm that happened earlier on in the autumn. So it's great news. And then you had, of course, Eben Etzebeth from the Sharks, on the Sharks. He wasn't playing. He's been given a ban. And I don't think he would have played really. Maybe he wouldn't have played anyway, because it was so shortly after their last game of the autumn internationals. But you remember last week, South Africa demolished Wales at Cardiff. But Eben Etzebeth had this moment where he was eye gouging one of the Welsh players, and he had a huge kind of dragged out affair during the week. Disciplinary committee, people looking at it again and again. What the mitigation was, testimonies from other players. So he has ended up with a 12-week ban, which I think he got really lucky with. It was originally 16, but then he got it knocked down to 12 just because he's never gotten a red card before. And he does have, a very long career at this stage. So I think that's fair to take into account. But a lot of people, even Springbok fans, are like, whoa, he was very lucky with that outcome. So that was Eben Etzebeth. He's going to be out for 3 months. For the Sharks. The Sharks are a strange team. They've got so many really good Springboks on that team. We talk about double World Cup winners here. And for some reason, they just do not play as well as they do under Rassie Erasmus. It's just a totally different team. Is it a coaching problem? Could be. It just seems like they should be going way more further in these kind of tournaments, and with way better victories, with more emphatic scores, considering the talent that they have. But it's early days. We'll see how they get on as the season progresses. So then this weekend, we've got the Challenge Cup, Ulster against Racing 92. That's on this evening very shortly. And then we've got the Ospreys against Connacht on Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock. So if you're looking for a game on Sunday, that's a handy one. That's the Challenge Cup. And then the Investec Champions Cup, formerly known as the Heineken Cup, that is starting tomorrow. Now, I'm actually going to one of these games. I'm going to the Leinster game against the Harlequins at 5:30 in the evening in the Aviva. Pretty excited because I've never been to the Aviva before. Now, I know you might be confused because there's a Munster flag up here. Sometimes I wear a Munster jersey. I am a Munster fan through and through, but I also have a side of me that's a Leinster fan because I was born there, got family from there. So, yeah, if Munster aren't playing, I'll go for Leinster. My Munster friends hate that. My Connacht friends don't like it either. It takes all sorts to make a world. So, all's fair in love and war. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to being in the atmosphere in the Aviva. Interestingly, this is going to be Rico Ioane's first game, who has a very checkered past in terms of relationships with the Irish rugby team, or kind of sledging dynamics going on there with him and Johnny Sexton in the past. But he is now a Leinster player for the next 6 months. So he's kind of following the steps of Geordie Barrett. Geordie Barrett must have told him, you got to come play for this club. They take good care of you. Ireland's a great country. Of course it is. So Rico decided he'd do the same thing. So he's hopped on a plane. Now he is on Irish soil playing in a blue jersey. That's not the Blues. It's Leinster. So he's going to be off the bench tomorrow. I'll be really excited to see him come off and do his thing. He'll probably be covering for a winger or a fullback position. It's, it's just a funny one. It's just, and I think Johnny Sexton is still, a person on that Leinster management team. So I just think it's funny, you had that famous incident 2 years ago at the World Cup where Rico was slagging him at full time at the quarterfinal and telling him not to miss his flight, called him an unsavory word. And Johnny directly referenced this moment in his autobiography that came out afterwards. And then last year, Rico led the Haka when they came to Dublin, when New Zealand came to play Ireland in Dublin, and was kind of doing the Twitter kind of words of war kind of thing. So it's been funny with Rico. It's good for the game that we have these kind of funny rivalries going on, but I just think it's like the last All Black I would have thought that would come to Leinster was Rico Ioane. So, but good luck to him. Hope it goes well. He's still playing for Leinster, and if he's anything like Jordy Barrett in terms of the skill and talent that he brought to the team, we're lucky to have him. So we'll see how it goes. And then we've got Munster in Bath tomorrow, and that is at 8 o'clock. So I'm jumping out of the stadium, probably into one of the Bagot Street pubs that's close by to the Aviva to catch the Munster game. So that's going to be on at 8 o'clock. That's a tough one because Bath, they won the Premiership recently. They're a really smart outfit, and Munster might still be reeling a little bit from letting that one slip against the Stormers, but we'll see how they get on. So yeah, that is what is going on with the rugby right now. I hope you liked the video. Please like, subscribe, leave comments. Again, go back to the draw and think, what did you think about this draw? How do you think we're looking for the Ireland squad? There's a lot to be done in the interim. We've got really a hard-boiled 18 months of games to see how we're going to get on for 2027 in Australia. But it's exciting. It's great. The draw is out now, and you can really feel that is now kind of sparked. It's not just a fairy tale far, far away. The World Cup seems a lot more tangible now that the draw is done. It seems a lot more realistic, and we're just about to enter 2026. So before you know it, we'll be a year away. So it's exciting times. So yeah, I hope you like this video and enjoy your rugby for the weekend.